Okay, here's an update on the pouch. I've got the belt loop stitched on. I'm still going to do a little bit of molding on. Well, maybe not. I might not do molding on that because, well, that's pretty good. I've contact cemented the front pouch piece with the back part, and I took my actually before I glued it, I punched the stitch holes along the edges there using my 2 different size punches, and then I glued this piece to this piece. Now what I'm doing is I'm punching the stitch holes on through with my awl. The reason I'm doing it that way is because of the belt loop. I won't be able to lay that flat and punch the stitch holes. So making sure that I got a good sharp awl, and I'll take and strop it, make sure it's good and pointy. Now, you know, with an awl, the edges aren't sharp at all, but it's very pointy. The idea is to pierce the leather and then push the awl through, which separates the fibers. You don't want to cut the fibers, and you definitely do not want to drill them. So the awl, I just put it through the hole, following the angle that that's in the leather with the diamond shape of my awl, and just give it a little push. Well, actually, I'm going to put my thumb here so I don't bump that ferrule against that pouch, and just give it a push. And that forms the hole. And I'm just going to go all the way around with my awl and punch those stitch holes on through, making sure to keep it straight. Now I may go back through and wallow out the holes with my awl a little bit if I feel that that's something I need to do. So anyway, I'm going to continue doing that. Oh, let me show you real quick. This is that wood form I made for the blade, for the knife rather. That fits down in there. This folds over it. This piece is going to get stitched down here, and it's going to come up, and it's going to have a hole where it fits over that stud. So it'll be something like that when it's done. Well, I'm going to keep going and see if I can get some stitching done on this thing. See you in a little bit. Alright, now that we got all those stitch holes punched and I've got it in my clamp, it's time to do some stitching. I've already got this needle locked on. Now I'm going to go ahead and lock on my other needle. How's that done? Well, take your thread, put it through the eye of the needle, and then you bring it around and you pierce the, see if I can do this left-handed, pierce the thread with the needle. There we go. Pull that on through. Scooch it down. Pull this part. Pop it over the eye. And that needle is locked on. Now let's get started. I'm going to start right here. Give it a little bit of a wiggle. Even up my needles. And this is our first stitch. Put it through the hole. Now, since I'm stitching away from myself, the second needle goes over the top of the thread. Give it a tug to make sure I didn't pierce the thread, and I didn't. And then pull these snug. Don't need to strangle it, just give it a little snug. Make sure it's still even, and it is. And we'll continue on from there. Now I like to wallow the needle around a little bit in the hole. Just to open it up a little bit. Because the leather will go back. It will go back and it'll actually grip the thread. Which is one of the reasons I just like the idea of drilling stitch holes. Get those snug. And these holes are snug. Which is actually a good thing. You want that. Because like I said, the hole will actually grip the thread, and that'll make for a better stitch line, a more secure stitch line. So I'm going to keep going, and when we get to the end, I'll come back. One thing I got to remember to do is to make sure I put that in place, this little piece in place when I come around the bottom. I'll let y'all know if I remember to do that when I come back. Alright, I got all the bits stitched together, and while I was at it, I went ahead and punched that hole. This is how it's going to work. This part folds over the knife, and the little stud goes through the little hole, and that holds it in place. That way there's nothing protruding to the inside to scratch anything. Well, next step, I got to trim this around here and stitch this piece on. And then we'll put a finish on this thing. Well, yeah, I got to sand around here, trim these pieces, sand that side, do all the edge work, and then put the final top coat on it. And this one will be done. Okay, see you when we get to it.